Hi, my name is Pankaj Sindhwani. I come from the world of finance and investments. I truly believe what is good for environment is good for business and therefore good for investors too. But before I jump into facts and figures, allow me to share a short story. It was probably late 90s. I was posted in this beautiful city of Alwar in the state of Rajasthan, and many of us, including our team members, had started to join back after a week of Diwali celebrations back home with our family and friends. What surprised me, however, that many of us had plans for after Diwali. Intrigued, I asked around, and people told me they were heading for what is known as Govardhan Parikrama Puja. Now, for those who are not aware, Govardhan is Indian's sacred mountain, almost 90 kilometers from the city of Alwar. And parikrama literally means circumambulation. Here in this case, devotees undertake 21 kilometers of circumambulation barefoot as a mark of their gratitude to the Mount Govardhan. But why do they worship mountain? The legend goes that about 5,000 years ago, during the time of Lord Krishna, people of Gokulam around the hill of Govardhan would worship Lord Indra. Now, why Lord Indra? Because they believed Lord Indra was responsible for timely rains. They needed timely rains because their primary vocation was farming and cattle rearing. To that end, they would worship and appease Lord Indra. During one such event, young Lord Krishna happened to question the very premise of this worshipping of Lord Indra. He argued that rains were a natural phenomena and no one had the power to influence the laws of nature. Why should we worship Lord Indra? If at all, you should worship mountains and its trees, which are indeed responsible for rains. And thus started the tradition of worshipping Govardhan mountain and its trees. Now, what could be a more persuasive and powerful call to preserve nature? Well-known British historian and scholar Felipe Fernandez Ernesto defines civilization as a relationship between humans and their natural environment. He also says, more often than not, civilizations overexploit their environment, often to the point of self-destruction. Indian civilization, on the other hand, has been known to revere and worship every form of nature, whether it is mountains, rivers, or trees. We have deeply valued and respected the delicate balance between man-environment relationship and never attempted to denature humanity. It is shocking, therefore, how far we have traveled as a world from that harmonious relationship. Climate change is probably the biggest threat modern humans have ever faced. Extreme weather events are becoming a norm across the globe. Within first 9 months of 2021, we have seen floods in Britain and Germany, heat waves in US and Canada, wildfires in US and Australia. Back home within India, we saw floods in Maharashtra and Bihar, cloudbursts and rock slides in Himachal Pradesh, and excessive rainfall in Goa and Uttarakhand. More than 75% of Indian districts, which are home to over 638 million people, are extreme climate hotspots. India lost as much as $87 billion to climate disasters in 2020 alone. So situation is indeed dire and will need massive interventions. And interventions demand money, serious long-term money. Per some estimates, developing world requires roughly $5 trillion to combat climate change. Now, this figure does look very large in isolation, but seems entirely achievable when you look at global annual GDP of 80 trillion or global annual savings of about 20 trillion. In fact, the COVID stimulus that governments rolled out across the world is 5 times the money that climate change requires. But is it that simple? Is the money indeed flowing through at the right pace, at the right time, and in the right instruments? Certainly not. Per some estimates, $2.6 trillion of investments came through in renewables. But most of this investment happened in the developed world. Only 5 developing countries, India, China, South Africa, Brazil, and Mexico, could manage more than 20 billion. Interestingly, developing countries have the most renewable resources, are most vulnerable to climate change, and yet get a fraction of global climate investments. This needs to change. I probably do not need to overstate the fact that India will play a very important role in global war against climate change for sake of the world and for sake of its own people. I do not see this as a challenge though. I think it's a huge opportunity. An opportunity to build it all green, the opportunity to grow green. 70% of India's infrastructure is yet to be built, and India has the unique opportunity to build it all green. This means India can offer substantial scale for green technologies and green investments. In addition, India's robust and transparent institutional and governance framework lends a lot of confidence to global investor community. Let's look at some more facts. International Finance Corporation estimates that India's decarbonizing goals could require as much as $3 trillion by 2030. Renewable energy alone could consume almost $500 billion. So this landscape has already matured sectors such as renewables and transmission, emerging sectors such as e-mobility and energy efficiency, and finally the sectors which are yet very nascent, such as green hydrogen, carbon capture, and so on. Naturally, the financial interventions that would be required to meet the needs of these diverse set of sectors would also be different. Already mature sectors would need long-term finance with low but predictable and safe returns. Emerging sectors would need a lot of credit guarantee products till such time that the markets turn mainstream. And finally, the yet nascent sectors would depend a great deal on policy, interventions, and taxonomy. Now, against $3 trillion needed, the asset size of the entire Indian banking industry is less than $2 trillion. This gap could go up further, with more ambitious goals being announced, as being evidenced during COP26. Yes, India will count on global pools of capital to make this happen, but that is good news for global investors. Which other economy can offer the size and scale that India can, with the added advantage of a transparent and predictable policy framework and robust institutional governance systems? Also, and more importantly, there is real money to be made. So what exactly do we need? We need a platform, or for that matter, many platforms, which could intermediate global climate money into countries that need it, such as India. Tata Cleantech is one such platform, and we hope we will have many more across many more countries. We need world-class green finance institutions, which set highest set of standards in governance, portfolio quality, and climate returns. Given our huge ambitions and enormous scale, we need platforms with scale. We need a robust and thriving ecosystem for green startups. We need pools of equity capital. We need an ecosystem where government, investors, and industry come together to enable, encourage, support, and scale climate ventures throughout their journey. We need multilateral institutions to rethink, reimagine their role. We need public finance to leverage and crowd in private capital. We need public finance to reduce structural risks and create a robust payment security mechanism. We need public finance to be used in risk mitigation instruments such as guarantees, first loss cover, credit wraps, and viability gap funding. We need India to be the global hub for green and climate finance. Why can't we have world's largest climate finance institution headquartered here in India? We need to have a thriving green bond market to free up balance sheets of banks and financial institutions. And finally, we need the same sense of urgency and same spirit of collaboration that we so very well demonstrated dealing with the pandemic. To sum up, it is clear that India is among very few markets that can absorb trillions of dollars of equity and debt capital and offers two unique benefits to global investors. One, that all of this capital is going towards greater global good to save our environment. India must be supported in its green growth journey so that world could be saved from climate disasters. Two, there is real money to be made.
Yes, none of it is going to be easy. But to quote famous Italian philosopher Antonio Gramsci, I'm a pessimist because of intelligence, but an optimist because of will. And I must share another story to demonstrate the power of will. This story is about ordinary people showing extraordinary courage. In the late 70s, rural villages, especially the women from the northern Himalayan state of Uttarakhand, took an unprecedented step to save their forests. When floods came, they hugged the trees, and that triggered the world's first of its kind, most powerful, non-violent, people-owned ecological movement. This movement led to the enactment of the Forest Conservation Act and saved millions of trees from felling.
Here is to new beginnings on that hopeful and positive note. Thank you.